What's up, guys? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek from DFS Army. We are talking NASCAR, Las Vegas Penzoil 400, DraftKings and Fanduel breakdown. With me, as always, the man, the sandwich, the thinker outside of the bun, Taco.
The guy who just ate a salad that was definitely just pizza toppings. Ugh.
Ooh, that does not sound like a very good salad. Wait. Like, what? You had a salad of pepperoni and cheese?
It was gross.
That does not sound. That does not
Vegas,
sound good.
baby.
It does sound.
Let's roll the dice.
It sounds NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
In fairness, is that a NASCAR salad? A branded hashtag NASCAR salad? Pepperoni and cheese. No bread.
Something I'd see at the track.
Gluten free. It's for our gluten free friends.
You ready to spend some money on some Kyles?
Yeah. That's called the Larson at the stadium when you order that.
The double Larson with cheese.
Yeah. Hold the crust. All right. Anyway, we're looking at where do we go with that? We're looking at the NASCAR Las Vegas Penzoil 400. And we've had a couple races already. Get a little taste of the track, so to speak. How would you say it's gone over the weekend so far with this track? It's supposed to be carnagey. I mean, I don't know that we've
It's like both. It's carnagey, but it's also not carnagey. And we kind of saw that, like, the truck series, the first, 2/3 of the race was about as expected, just constant flags. And then the third stage was just pure green flag domination from Kyle Busch to get in the optimal there. And then, we saw a lot of lead changes in Xfinity. And then ultimately the pole sitter ended up, Chandler Smith, who was teammates with Kyle Busch that race, ended up pretty much dominating it there. So we do see some somewhat big dominators here, but there's always potential for carnage. The last few races here, all the races so far in the next gen car. So both races last year, there were at least 7 flags, and that's what the line is currently, 7.5 cautions. It's a little high, I think, but we have seen this race as recently as 2019 go completely green flag. I think last year there was a race where there was 1 caution and that was it. So I always call this track very finicky, very fickle. Just a lot of different ways they can go out, and I kind of like making a couple different lineup constructions based on if this thing is going green or if this thing ends up just turning into a disaster like the last few times.
Gotta be
some kind of going for some of the old guard long run speed guys on those green flag runs. The guys that can take care of their equipment and just maintain speed. And then, of course, your aggressive restarters if it ends up becoming a caution filled race. I think we have a pretty good idea of who those guys are. I mean, if you look at the top of the field here, a lot of guys very similarly projected all the way until it's not. I mean, one chalk guy in Reddick just starting from the rear. Other than that, it's kind of a crapshoot as to who will be up on top, but I have some favorites.
Nice. Well, I like to hear that. And so what I want to do, per usual, now that we have practice times, which is great, first we'll go to the DK and FanDuel average by start charts, just get a sense of how things work in this track. And here we go. This is the DraftKings average by start. And what this sheet shows us is the traditional fantasy points scoring based on where the driver starts in the starting position, right?
And you usually see a more aggressive share towards the top 5 or so drivers here. Goes to show that qualifying isn't quite as important here. This is a very multi-groove track that kind of changes over the course of the night. Different lanes you can go in. There's just a lot of mix-up in this field, a lot of lead changes as well. So no huge advantage to starting in the top 5, qualifying top 5. A lot of times you see qualifying be like how we had qualifying this week, where just big gusts of wind determine everything. This is like the one track where wind actually matters quite a bit and just adding to the carnage of it. So that's always fun.
It's super flat. You go all the way out from 1st to 30th, and there's very little difference. 27.6 average starting a little further back. And then when you get to the shitter zone,
once you get to that zone, everyone's getting lapped like crazy.
Yeah, this is important to understand. this is the thing that I think a lot of people don't really, you got to grasp this. Certain tracks like this one, where it's all engine power in the vehicle, the crappy teams are just not going to keep up. They're going to fall laps behind, and you are going to have no chance of those drivers like getting anywhere past like the top 30 unless extreme carnage happens. So you got to really be careful about what kind of turds you're messing with. You want to juggle too many turds, you're going to get a little poop on your hands.
It's a smaller track than last week at Auto Club, but a lot of what we have to go off of is Auto Club. That's kind of some of the only data we've seen recently with these cars. We have this practice session, and then we have last week at Auto Club. And that's pretty much what we got to go off of. And you can look at last year's data. I wouldn't really look any farther than last year's data because it was a different car gen. And you have some like historical things here, but not the biggest on track history here with how weird this track is. But yeah, you don't want to play the guys in the rear. They're going to do pretty poorly. Once you get down to like the Ty Dillons of the world, they would only be playable if there's like some severe carnage, which, I mean, there's carnage here, but usually the wrecks here are like one or two cars.
Take a look.
Very rarely do we see a big pile up, but I kind of said that about Auto Club, and then exactly that happens.
Anything can happen in a NASCAR race. Take a look here at the chart, though, and then we're going to jump over to FanDuel real quick. Give a little FanDuel love out there because we don't always do that. But, the driver rating. So, duh, right? But what this shows is the average score by driver rating is very much correlated to the driver rating itself. In other words, driver skill, vehicle generally determines how drivers do here. And you see that the 40-50, these are the shitters in the back, scoring 19, averaging 19, 16 fantasy points. So this is not the kind of rate. So we'll try to figure out which of those shitters aren't actually shitters. That's a whole other thing. But for the crapola drivers, we're going to stay away. We're going to play better drivers.
Yeah, they won't even be able to survive their way into a good finish here, really. You have to finish in like the teens or so to be optimal.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen for these turds. So let's jump over to the FanDuel and just see if there's anything different we can glean. I suspect there won't be.
Sort of the same spread, honestly.
Yeah, there is nothing different here. It's the same. So this is finally a race where, well, you know what? This is nice. Where FanDuel and DraftKings strategy are going to be really, really similar. That's not always the case, but I mean,
we're just going to try to pick the top 10 finishers here, pretty much across the board. Those mid-range plays very much in play here. It's a smaller trap than Auto Club, and very easy for people to get laps down. Sometimes even have single-digit numbers of people on the lead lap if it goes green for a long time.
All right, let's jump over to practice times and break this down for me. You watched practice, you studied it. Break down for me what I'm seeing on screen here. Who looked fast? I see some green next to Kyle Larson. I see some dark green next to Willie Byron.
Well, fastest of all, isn't even included in here. You've got Tyler Reddick, who had all zeros for his lap times.
Well, that's super fast.
Yeah, so he's going to be starting dead last. And then
he will be
Harrison Burton also did some practice, did some crashing as well. So you can ignore his times. You have the two different.
What's this Group A, Group B separation?
They've been since last year. They've been separating the practices into two different groups. So yeah, you can see Group A, Group B. They averaged about the same lap wise. There was no real split. Sometimes there's like cloud coverage or even a temp difference or just rubber difference, and you'll see like one group be faster than the other. So I like to break it up to kind of comparatively look at it just in case there's a split. There wasn't really one. We saw some guys be fast. I think Group A overall just had a lot of the stronger drivers. But yeah, like Kyle Larson showed some clear speed. William Byron had some pretty impressive speed going there as well. Some surprise guys up there like Chris Buescher, AJ Allmendinger, Logano, who's sitting on pole, and his teammate Blaney, of course, are going to be fast. Kind of a lot of the same names as the last week, I guess. Not the best showing from JGR. They look pretty slow across the board, the Toyotas. I think Bubba was the only guy that showed any amount of speed in practice. Him and Gibbs, the 23XI guys, but the JGR guys, all four of them just had poor times.
Not ideal. What about this Harry Burton putting up a pretty good average? What did he crash? Did he crash during practice?
Yeah, he didn't have those waning laps as he his last lap was actually a very long one. He never finished it.
That's what's up. Okay. So that skewed that number. So we got to look at the best lap, which
I have it sorted.
Still pretty good.
Yeah.
For the guy starting that far
best
back.
lap. I would look at like best 5 laps is a pretty good one. Just the top 5 lap speeds that they ran, and they're pretty similar across the board. There's no one that really stuck out all too much. I mean, Bubba had some pretty decent short run speed. He could be a little sneaky play there. Didn't run a ton of laps or anything. So yeah, that's gonna knock the average down a little bit. But
I'm just trying to figure out what stands out here. I mean, I know you like Chastain, for example. I don't think his numbers stand out at all.
Yeah, it was a pretty standard day for Chastain and Suarez. I would like them a lot because of last week. But at the top of the board, you pretty much have Hendrick and Penske showing off their speed in 23XI for what it's worth.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, I think so. What are you using primarily as your determinative factor for like who's going to look good here?
I kind of thought about this. So pretty much about 50% last week's speed. I think it's going to be the main thing that we should look at overall, just their race speed. And then their, the eye test whether they did good in the short runs or the long runs, a bit of practice because, you got to kind of go off the practice a bit, probably like, I don't know, 30% or so. And then like the other 20% just being, last year's trends and track history. Maybe not so much track history, just a little tiny bit of track history. Definitely weighing that in significantly less than in some other weeks where it's a lot more telling. Because there aren't really that many guys that just specifically suck here. But yeah,
I'm looking at the ownership projections, and they look like just really milquetoast. Outside,
there's no one that's really sticking out. I think Kyle Busch would have stuck out if he would have done better in the Xfinity race. There'd be a big angle on him for going for the weekend sweep, but he looked very bad in practice. Did not keep it out on the track very long. Was constantly complaining about it, doing a ton of changes. So looked pretty poor out there. Not the best day for RCR practice wise. Austin Dillon was also pretty slow.
Okay, and one other interesting situation happening here is Chase Elliott injured, little snowboarding accident, and so Josh Berry is making his
Cup debut
in Chase Elliott's
equipment vehicle. Starting in 32nd. Problem is, it's not a matter of if he'll have rookie mistakes; it's when. This is like last second thrown on him. He didn't even get a chance to prepare this. They haven't, they've been working on seating the car for him properly. Now,
I mean, did Josh drive in trucks or Xfinity?
Yeah, he's newer in Xfinity. He's been racing there the last couple of years, but still a young guy. Just his first ever Cup start. He's a pretty intelligent guy. But yeah, you should definitely expect some mistakes out of him. And you could see in practice he was babying the crap out of it. So it looked pretty slow across the board there. But yeah, starting 32nd, if he just races super conservatively and there's some carnage here, I can see him doing decently. But usually in a spot like this, especially last second subbing in, I would not expect a lot from Barry here.
I mean, it's a dangerous spot. It's unfortunate they priced him so high. Because, Austin Dillon's sitting right there, and he's the same price.
I'm kind of happy they did price him this high, because I don't necessarily have to play him compared to if he was like 6K or some bullshit.
If he was 6K, that's what's so weird about this one.
I would not want to play him is the thing. That's got to be awful to root for, because he's getting at least one pit penalty, or just he's never touched a Cup Series car before, ever. And it's so much different than Xfinity. You always see those growing pains. So I don't like to touch guys in their first ever Cup race.
Dangerous.
Yeah, but I mean, that starting position, usually they overqualify or something. That starting position is pretty juicy, I will say.
Yeah, it's really weird that they priced him that high, because DraftKings normally takes a guy like this.
Yeah, and they give equipment.
They slap a 6K on them and say, hey, take your shot, and kind of force you to play him. Here, you don't really need to play him. which is interesting for me. So anything else we need to look at here on this chart before we jump over to sort of the picks themselves and we go through the drivers here?
Yeah, we should be fine. DraftKings, again, not giving out like top 10s. Like, please give us the top 10s back. I'll have to go to like a different book for that. But so many odds were skewed across the board. Like,
I found a couple
Fanduel odds had some guys like Gibbs as like terrible, like 80-1, and they'd be like 20-something to 1 on DK. And just a lot of mixed opinions across the board. Like, I think FanDuel had Chastain as the favorite or something, and then some of the other books just looked wildly different. So a lot of uncertainty I'm seeing in the books. I think you almost got to treat the top like 10 drivers as sort of a monolith, or almost anyone could kind of dominate here, and they all qualified pretty well. The only person that even sticks out is Reddick, who didn't qualify, but for the most part, the top 15 starters. Oh my gosh, don't tell me another sound issue.
I'm hoping that they can hear me out there, so let me know.
Let me check.
Yeah, like, can you hear me? Give us a note there in the I feel like somebody would have said
Discord or anything.
Yeah, I feel like somebody
I can hear you.
All right, well, I feel like somebody would have said something in the chat if they couldn't hear me. So
that's kind of weird.
Hopefully they can. Sorry, Russell D's. I don't know, but if anybody else can't hear me, all right, yeah, all right, turn it up. Okay, we're good. Yeah, all right. So anyway, let's get into the picks. And Taco, I'm going to work with your cheat sheet here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go down the list. We'll talk through these drivers. One of the odds-on favorites to win this race, Kyle Busch, 3.5-star play. Why not Core?
Because he's struggled in practice. He didn't like the car in practice. He took it out a whole. He took it off the track a whole bunch. Made a bunch of adjustments. Wasn't the happiest with it. I don't know. Super expensive as well. Like Larson better. Like Chastain better. Even Logano. Like, he's got a pretty direct path to some domination here. I just like kind of everyone better. I do like him better than Chase Elliott, though.
No, there you go. At least that. I mean, you look at the ownership projections here, and they're so milquetoast, Taco. Like, I don't know. It's really kind of weird. You've even got Denny Hamlin up there at 22%. Like, what the hell? Usually
Logano is like the low-owned one, right? To kind of add some variety, but he just had to go and qualify in the pole. And
we did see the pole or yesterday's race dominated by the number 2 starter,
number 1 starter.
Yeah, or was Smith number 1 or number 2?
It was the pole sitter, and then Allgaier. Yeah, he started second, but he dominated a good portion of the race and was constantly fast. But he got sent back a few times.
But here's the thing: what happened yesterday was not like Chandler Smith held first place for the whole race. He dropped back initially, and then made his way back to the front. So he was there like on merit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he was on merit.
That's what happens when you have qualifying, unlike last week.
Yeah, but we had qualifying here, so obviously Logano was quick enough, and he got that first.
Yep, and when he's on clean air and trimmed up, he's very nice. He could dominate a significant portion of this race, and even if he gets into traffic, I mean, I think once someone passes him for first, I think he just hangs out in the top 5 all day. It's kind of what we see from Joey Logano. But
let's talk about Larson. So last week, and I like that we're using a lot of last week's data as our guide here because you yourself told me they're on the West Coast. They can only tweak up these cars so much out there, right? They're driving.
Yeah. This car had quite the tweak in it, thanks to zero practice. He had an electrical issue that they were able to fix in the middle of the race, but it sent him back like 17 laps. That dude ended up getting like 20-some fast laps. Like by the second half of the race, he was back to being as fast as anyone else. His finish is just going to be freaking terrible because of that electrical issue that would have easily been fixed in practice. So nice to have practice and qualifying back this week.
So
no issues from Larson there. He looked super fast in practice, looking like one of the cars to beat. If I'm playing a Kyle this week, it's going to be Kyle Larson. Sorry, Kyle Busch. Big fan, but going to go with Larson here over Mr. Busch. And I have him probably as like my second or third favorite, just overall dominator.
I like it. And I like that it's based on, his actual results from last week that not a lot of people really paid attention to. because he was 17 laps behind. So nobody's watching that. But
it's not like he was laps behind because of any like real issue with the speed of his car. It was literally a stupid electrical issue.
And now sticking with the theme of drivers that were good, had good cars last week, and for that continuing, you've got Chastain as sort of a favorite. You know, he's 8-1 to win. That's right up there. I'm sorry, he's 11-1 to win.
He led a fuck ton of laps. He led almost like 100 laps. Looked super fast at a track that he had never really looked good at before. But Trackhouse just in general looked amazing. You saw Suarez right there on the top 5 the entire race too. So
love
someone I expect to be very aggressive, very fast on the restarts. Just super awesome play. I like him to dominate a good chunk of this race again, just to be fast. Him and his team.
Austin's asking about exposures, and so let's clarify this in terms of exposure. So just like give an overview here, because we've got ownership percentages, we've got player projections and all of that. But when you say, I really like Ross Chastain, right? He's projected at 28% ownership. Or you say, I'm not in love with, I really like Kyle Larson, but I'm not in love with Kyle Busch, right? So you've got those three, and we just discussed them. So we know, let's say the ownership projection for all three is exactly 30%. We're projecting 30%. How do you play that?
I'm probably playing like 10 to 15% Kyle Busch, like 35-ish% Larson, and then like 40-45% Chastain.
So
just like going solidly over and under on these guys, just kind of depending. Logano is the other one, kind of glossed over a bit, but I mean, he's pretty much going to dominate early. Like, he's got his teammate behind him, so that gives him quite the advantage over Byron off the rip. Blaney could end up scooting past Logano if he's faster, but I see Logano just being fine in clean air, and depending on how long stage 1 goes, you know, that should be a significant amount of lead laps for him, and it's not like he's going to fall back. We saw him run top 3 all race at Auto Club, usually in second or third, but yeah, he has no problem staying up there and having a good finish. So, you know, that's a pretty good little floor for him as long as nothing happens to him, which usually it does not. And he's quite good at winning at this track, as he's won 3 times here since 2019. So I kind of want to just be with the field on Logano. I kind of don't want to make him kill me, but the guys that I want to be over so far, at least, is Larson a bit, and then Chastain quite a bit. Having those two as my core in GPP.
So the whole thing with these exposures is, you know, when you're making a bunch of line, look, if you're making one, you take your stand, right? You say, this is my one lineup. Hey, it's got Larson and Chastain. Those are the guys that you love. But, and this is for you, you know, for anybody watching this, like, do your thing. You know what I mean? This is philosophical, right? But, you know, going over or under, this is still NASCAR. You know that any one of these drivers up in the front, like Blaney, can just lead the whole damn race. Like, that totally can happen. He just gets there.
He's in position to do that last week as well.
Or Willie Byron. These guys could. There's no saying which one of, you know. Sure, Logano might be the dominator. Could be Chastain. Could be any one of these top 8 or 9 guys that are good. So you've got to catch the right dominator, but player leans, because you can't play everything. But when you talk like above or below the field, rather than, hey, I'm not going to play 0 Kyle Busch, but if he's going to be 28%, maybe go down to, if this is how you want to play the race, you go down to maybe 10%, take that other 18% exposure, slap 11 of it on Chastain to go over, slap, you know, a little bit on Larson to go over. That's how you sort of adjust your exposures without overdoing, especially for mass multi-entry, which I think a lot of people like to do for NASCAR. I love MME and NASCAR. It's my favorite.
And I think this is a 2 dom week, like at least 2, because of the way qualifying shook out, and the fact that all the good fast cars are starting at the front. Do like that at least 2 roll here for sure this week.
I like that thought as well. You know, the projections generally tend to favor cars starting a little bit further back because they have Reddick, that place differential. Like, so that mean projection is going to favor some of the drivers in the middle spots, and it'll pass over a lot of the 1 through 11 or 12s because their cars past projection isn't going to be as good, and so that floor is a little bit lower. But we're not trying for floor or mean. We're trying for ceilings on all of the drivers that we pick. And so forcing the optimizer to take 2 of the top 12 or at least 2 dominators is a great way to sort of force the tool to look like lineups that should be what the winning lineups look like.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's a standard amount of laps at 267. And yeah, I expect there to be a multi-dominator race because you can kind of pass here, and especially with a higher than average amount of cautions expected for a 1.5 mile track, I do expect multiple leaders to lead different segments of laps here. Kind of why I like going for some more dominators here and not necessarily loading up on too many of the mid-range like place differential plays, maybe leaning more in cash for that. So I mean, if you can get 3 dominators here, that's pretty awesome bet. Those guys are also likely to finish just really well. I would even play like Byron and Logano together. That is not off the table for me here because it's really just about who dominates. And since we had qualifying, and those guys do actually have speed, I could see Logano leading early and then throughout the middle portion of the race or something, Byron's long run speed just shines through.
On that note, right here is where you see the dominator confidence number. So these are the drivers that are generally potential dominators. Even you gave Tyler Reddick a little half star there, so he could get there at the end. He
can do it. We had Mr. 5 Cents asked, does any manufacturer have an advantage for this race? And you scroll up a little bit to see the headers on this page. Just like scroll up a tiny bit, you can see the Chevy, Ford, and Toyota lines. Chevy is favored -120 to win this race for what it is worth.
Where is? Oh, you have that up here somewhere? Oh, there it is. Chevy. Yeah. So it's not quite a it's a manufacturer, not quite a team, but Chevy looks like the strong team. And so
the teams, the props for the teams is Hendrick +325, Penske +325. Those two seem to certainly be the top teams across the board here. Then after that, you've got RCR and Joe Gibbs at +450. So it's basically just Kyle Busch has the same odds as all of Joe Gibbs Racing to win this race, which is pretty funny. And then Trackhouse at +650, and then no other team really matters all that much. 23XI at +1400. I mean, there's only like 2 good cars there. I get it, but yeah, that's about what you could expect from the teams here as far as who's expected to win. And it makes sense. Penske and Hendrick were the ones that showed all the speed in practice, so it does make sense. And once you get to this lower portion here, like the 9K range, like Hamlin, someone I just like in cash, really. Don't see him like dominating the crap out of this race or anything by any means, but he's going to consistently finish really well. Just a good FanDuel play. Kind of say that every week because it remains true every week. I think cash games are super hard to make this week because it's hard to spend your money. And so Hamlin and Truex kind of come in as those guys that are like, they got a little bit of place differential upside, but also some, top 5, top 3 upside for sure.
Is Truex good at this type of track? I really stopped playing him at standard 1.5 miles.
He was really good last week. He just shot himself in the foot 3 straight times. He went all the way from the rear to the front 3 times in one freaking race. So if he can avoid mistakes, he's got a fast car. We saw that. But man, that guy needs to calm down the pit penalties.
How did Blaney's car look last week?
It was good. It ran right up there, top 5 with Logano a lot of the race. We saw them lead that early segment together. So yeah, Penske just looks strong. Not across the board because Cindric does not look strong. But Logano and Blaney should be a factor early on, starting just right behind each other.
All right. So, and you already talked a little bit about Truex. I mean, Truex. I know
Truex
Brady
makes a lot of sense here. He's going to project pretty high if he gets any amount of lead or fast laps.
It's because the 15 starting spot, I guess. He's
a little concerned about JGR speed just overall. None of them looked any good in practice, and yeah, just him shooting himself in the foot. I mean, I don't think he's going to get sent to the rear 3 times this week. I really don't expect that, but
that shit's not happening. I mean, that was just, that's not going to.
Yeah, so you take that out, and if he would have not had those mistakes last week, he would have, dominated a lot more of the race. I mean, he definitely has that upside.
All right, let's hammer through a couple of these. So Chris Bell, you're not a fan of Chris Bell this week. Got him as a fade.
I don't really have anything against him. It's just like I like everyone else so much better, and you've got to fade someone. So Bell kind of ends up being that guy here in like the almost the Kurt Busch role, where like if he kills me, he kills me, and I'm just gonna hope that he doesn't kill me.
He's a little expensive for like what he traditionally kind of had been.
Yeah, by the end of last year, he kind of proved he deserved to be in the salary range, and even his starting position, like he was good in qualifying until literally just got a giant gust of wind, which is like this is the one track where wind actually is a constant factor here, just adding to a bit of the unpredictability here, just things that can happen to you. So it's not like he's even super slow or anything. He's actually the fastest of all the JGR Toyotas. I can't make the case for him over everyone else in this entire range.
Willie Byron starting second could easily overtake Logano and just be that early dominator. I mean,
if you look on the research station, his long run speed was unmatched in practice. He had incredible speed, but his finishes at this track type last year, at Auto Club last week, at this track historically, not very good. So
that's just variance.
Kind of pitting these things against each other.
It's variance. All of a sudden, it's going to stop happening, and then it's just going to stop happening. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, but I mean, you got to factor something in.
Yeah, it's just going to stop happening, and then he's just going to be winning them. You know, it's this weird variance.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a fast teammate in Larson he can work with early.
Yeah. Tyler Reddick is the chalk of the slate. 59% ownership projection on DraftKings, 45% on Fanduel, 5-star core play. So basically, I was even looking at Reddick as a really interesting prize picks play for the fantasy points over 48.5. But how does Reddick not deliver value? Like, what is the scenario?
I don't know. Just his backup is shit, or he wrecks. Probably he wrecks.
I mean, even if the backup is shit, it's not that bad.
Yeah, he'll definitely finish better than like 15th, 20th, which would probably be fine. At the same time, this is where the mean projections over the ceiling projections, it's kind of a big deal here because it's much higher projected than like Kyle Busch, Larson, Logano, Chastain, but significantly less likely to dominate than those guys.
Yeah, like those guys have a much, much higher chance of putting up like an 80, right?
But at 8,800, he's probably the third guy you slot into your lineup after two dominators, and that's probably the optimal.
How is your?
It's pretty easy to make value on this slate overall. It's not like you're really dying out here, and there are some cheap, good dominators: Blaney, Byron, etc.
From a DFS angle, just like ownership leverage angle, we talk about this stuff. This is not unique to NASCAR, but just like in general, whenever you have anybody on any slate, I don't care who they are, unless it's that dude who wins every F1 slate. But I don't even remember his name, but
happened.
Unless it's that guy, 59% ownership in a giant tournament is, it's almost like you fade it, and then you kind of hope for a crash, and if you don't get the crash, YOLO. Like if you were making one lineup in the, you had enough for $15 today, right? And you're like, I'm putting a lotto ticket into the big.
Yeah, then you're not playing Reddick.
Yeah,
you're hoping something fucks up with the backup. He wrecks a bit more than the average driver, you would say. I mean, he's really good if he doesn't wreck, but if he does, yeah, it's kind of like if he falls into the carnage, which you could expect about like either 25 to 30% carnage or like 10 to 15% carnage, just depending on how the race runs out. If he runs into that, yeah, then you're going to be sitting very pretty with some unduplicated lineups over the field. But most of the time we play this slate out, Reddick is going to be optimal.
But you know what happens. You know what happens whenever there's a 60% owned.
But I mean, the ownership doesn't affect how he drives out on the track.
It does. He knows. The pressure's on.
No chance.
You know how people on Twitter are always like, "Oh, it's rigged because their bet loses."
Yeah.
Like they knew it was me betting on them, so they lost on purpose.
Right. I see.
All I'm saying is, and this is the important point I wanted to make because I think people get this twisted backwards. People say single entry. Should I play? No. Like, if you have one entry in a giant tournament, chances are, and you use Reddick, like chances are the rest of that lineup isn't like good enough to beat the other 30,000 lineups in that tournament. So at least, don't play him. And now you're only up against 10,000 lineups. Like, all right, something.
You've got like a little range of guys here in Harvick, Bowman, and Wallace, all kind of like the same upside, starting right next to each other.
Is this the
Similar
one of these
salaries,
guys
similar
winds
odds.
up in the nuts, but you don't want to play any of them, but one of them winds up in the. I feel like Bubba is the best of them.
Yeah, I would say Bubba's probably the best of them. Unless you're on Fanduel, then you're playing Harvick every time. Bowman is actually the guy in the Kurt Busch slot here. This is like, he won this race last year just by hanging on and doing his thing, or he just slides in last second.
How did these guys look last week in terms of their speed and their sort of, because these are the low on guys. So, like, hey, if you can catch the right one, how did they look in terms of speed?
Yeah, I mean, Bowman actually looked pretty decent last week. He does not have the speed of like Larson or Byron really, but he was able to hang up in the top 10 there. Bubba also was running up. I think he had gotten even to like the top 5, but ended up getting taken out.
I thought Bubba was looking good last week. He looked good in practice too. So maybe Bubba, if we have to take a shot,
these are all great single entry plays. Maybe not as much Harvick just on DraftKings because of how he is, but like Bowman and Wallace, I could see being some strong leverage spots here.
All right, Josh Berry's filling in for Chase Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about him at the top. You already said you're not a big fan of people making their Cup Series debut.
I have a personal rule that I don't play people making their Cup Series debut because about 75-80% of the time they make a rookie mistake, and that's just because they have no experience. And Berry took a lot of practice laps, so he got a little bit comfortable in the car, but he was never able to get it to like full speed. Didn't really understand like the braking zones, and pit road, especially a tricky pit road like Las Vegas, is going to be.
Hold on a second, Taco.
What?
Let's say you're talking to me and I don't know about, I never drove one of these cars, right? What's the difference between a Cup Series car and an Xfinity car?
It's just a completely different car at this point, especially with this being the next gen car. Like even Jimmy Johnson comes back and is like, oh, it's like having to relearn how to drive again in this next gen car.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, there's some intricacies.
Different aero, different grip. The tires are wider. Like it's
like
a lot that goes into it. I think Berry will end up being fine. He was able to adjust very quickly and start having results pretty quickly in Xfinity, but it's just the first race. It's definitely a big old wait and see.
Is it kind of like when I switched from
like Gregson last year in Bowman's cars, kind of what you'd expect.
Is it kind of like when I switched from a Corvette to the Tesla?
And so we're not really
drove a little different.
We're not really going pedal to the metal in traffic with those. It's kind of a different story. I don't know. I can't really, I was personally driver. I can't really even like speak on that.
The Tesla threw me off a little bit. Zero, super fast. Can't really hear the engine. When I was going to pick up groceries with it, had to adjust to the driving conditions. It felt like relearning. Also, so I get it. I
could drive you, man. I could be driving a Tesla. You don't drive a Tesla, right?
No, it drives me. Okay, so you don't have to play Josh Berry because Austin Dillon is available.
Yeah, so he's just like the floor of all floors. He's like cash game. You'll lock him in. You pay $1 for him. In GPP, it's up to debate whether or not you play him. So he's pretty much always a 12th to 15th place finisher here, not only at this track, but at this track type. I think every single race last year.
Let's math it out here.
There.
Let's math it out real quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say he gets to 12th place, right? We get our 12th place, 31 points. Then we get 26 to 12. So you get an additional 14. So we got 14 plus, let's say 31. 45-ish, 45 zone. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Does that get me there? Because what if he finishes in 14th place? Well,
it depends on if there are like 3 dominators or not. because you're paying 8-1 for him. That's the
Yeah.
issue.
It's
And also
sketchy.
slow in practice. RCR overall did not look good at all in practice. So he always finds a way, but it's not like he's going to get any sort of like fast laps, especially lead laps on the way. Just doesn't really happen for him. He's just like super ultra safe and backs his way into like a 14th. Like that's about what I expect
That
from him.
doesn't do the job. That's only getting you about 41 points.
Yeah, that's why I have him as a cash gameplay here.
Good solid. Okay, good solid cash floor, but not getting you there. Eric Jones, starting 22nd. We really need probably a top 10. Let's see what his top 10 odds look like. Hold on.
Yeah, I wish I had them, right? Come on,
Well,
DraftKings.
give me top 5. I mean, you could extrapolate. So, Eric Jones, top 5, 8%. I mean, that's not good.
No, yeah. Legacy just didn't look very fast at all last week and this week. I mean, Jones's practice times were fine. They're kind of whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really too optimistic about paying up for him here. I don't think this is the best spot for him. I think Keselowski also starts high. I could see this is like the biggest long shot at someone that could maybe potentially lead laps, but even then,
This guy,
if I see him hanging in the top 10, though, I could.
If so, at the price, if he hangs in the top 10,
probably still not doing it for you. Maybe racking up fast laps along the way. I mean, he ran like
I feel like
but
if he's top 5,
I like his teammate so much more.
He has decent top 5 odds.
Yeah.
So like
odds are good.
Keselowski's top 5 odds were really good at 20%. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if this number is off or skewed.
He's probably going to stay on the lead lap too, which if this race goes green, I actually really like that for Keselowski. Because this is that track where you can see people you can see there'd be like 12, 13, 14 cars on the lead lap.
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at these implied top 5 odds, Taco, and he's going to be super low owned. And yeah, I think it's wrong. I think these odds are like wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's going to be super low owned. And if he does finish in the top 5, he will probably get to the perfect lineup. So I'm just saying, I don't love it, but
I mean, the last 1.5 we were at, he finished 5th at Homestead a few months ago. But I mean, Ross was showing something at 1.5 towards the end of last season.
39 fantasy points for 5th place, right?
Yeah.
Plus the 2, that's 41. It's barely in there.
It's 43.
So probably doesn't do it anyway. All right, doesn't do it anyway.
Yeah.
Fuck him. Fuck Keselowski.
He'll get some fast laps though, probably.
I'm out.
He would just be like a single entry play for me.
Yeah, I'm out. But D-Swizz, core play, 5 stars. Love Trackhouse because they were bad last week. Suarez should catch up with Chastain.
Oh, they weren't bad. They were bad fast.
What did I say? Oh, they were bad fast.
They're bad fast.
Like what am I even? I'm reading and skipping words. They were bad fast last week. Suarez should catch up with Chastain a bit this season. Saw a bit of an auto club. Most of the race was great, just okay in practice. So, but D-Swizz is the man. They want him to be a star in NASCAR. This is like a guy that they're going to give every. And you said Trackhouse was spectacular last week. So
yeah, they were fast just throughout the entire race. Like Suarez's 10th best lap and his 20th best lap were like 3rd in the entire field, and 1st was Ross Chastain. The only one to keep up with them even was Kyle Busch, just speed wise. They were just a consistent factor throughout the whole race.
The Russell wants me to set up the Dom station at the end. We will do that at the end. So if you guys want to stick around, we'll do a little Dom station setup at the end. There's not too much to it this week. It's super simple, but I'll show you a little bit of how we control for exposures. But Chase Briscoe looked like shit last week. Slower than Cody Ware.
Oh yeah, that car is a nightmare.
Disaster.
I don't think they get it fixed. Like this is just a situation where I'm waiting for them to get back on the East Coast. Or
is it all FHR?
Maybe I play like this short track car next week, but nah, this is like his car specifically was fucked. And I don't like playing, you pretty much go straight from Auto Club to Las Vegas is the way it goes here. And I don't think guys can fix stuff like that.
My boy Killer,
especially with them start 20th, like there's not much upside there whatsoever.
Yeah, so yeah, fadeable right there. Killer Priest starting 31st overall.
Yeah.
Didn't look great
Expected
last
so
week.
much more out of him. He kind of got there through portions of the race, but I mean, you play him because he's starting 31st, and this is definitely more of like if there's carnage or something. Probably still cash safe. But
Yeah, I think he's a little too expensive still. Like, prove it,
yeah,
Killer Priest. Like, they priced him up for the new team before he actually looked like a good driver, which I don't
but it's
love
still
that.
very early in the season. We've
Yeah.
yet to see really a whole lot.
I wish they gave us, like, they should have given us like a month or two of 6K Killer Priest, before they.
We need 6K Cindrix. We can actually play this guy. He overqualifies every week. He's just so useless.
Yeah,
He
can't play
doesn't do
Cindric.
anything.
0 top 10 finishes, starting too high. Sorry, Cindric. What about Chris Buescher?
Yeah,
And
that
you
was
really
the
like Chris
teammate of
Buescher.
Keselowski that I was referring to. A big fan here. From a leverage perspective, I don't expect him to be very high owned. He's finished like 13th in like 3 straight 1.5 mile tracks. In the 6Ks, I think that definitely gets the job done. And so far, what we've seen of him this season, he's looked very fast.
I'm going to throw a disagree with you on one of these picks coming up. So, guys, stay tuned for a little disagreement coming up.
Fun.
But first, we've got Recky Stenhouse starting 16th. Nothing to see here. Pretty much 1.5 mile tracks, not necessarily his thing.
Yeah, just starting 16th now.
All right, here's my disagreement with you. I have a feeling. So this is a weird situation, right? Ty Gibbs got the good vehicle, starting 4th. No one wants to play Gibbs starting 4th.
Oh man, this is like Hail Mary here.
Dude, if this guy hangs around at 6,600, hangs around the top 5, no one's going to play him. This is how you win all the monies.
Oh yeah. You bet him at like 80-1 on Fanduel or whatever they had him at. This is the guy the odd shops like just disagreed on super hard.
Would you say that his car is any different than Christopher Bell's car or Kyle? Or
I wouldn't say it's a disagreement though. So I did put scary slate breaker potential.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's not disagreement, but it's like I don't go full fade here. I think these are when you're trying to win a tournament and you're making 150. This is the kind of shit. Yeah, that's right. Control. This is for multi-entry, right? So if you're making 150,
and you're making 20, you don't play Ty Gibbs. If you're making like 100 plus, you play Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that, just a little bit, because if I've seen it time and time again. Like a guy whose name doesn't stand, like a Chris Buescher starting top 7, and you're like, unfriend you, or like a Michael McDowell, and then all of a sudden they're just still there at the end of the race. You're like, what the hell are they still doing in 5th place? And he didn't even need to do anything. He just needed to hold position, and he will be in the winning lineup because of the price. So that's the one thing. Like Ty Gibbs,
the next gen card's more likely than in the previous generation of car. That is right, but
yeah. But that being said, it's this is a crazy long shot. So only when you're making 150, and that's the kind of silly play. And it's not specific to Ty Gibbs. I would say this about anybody. Even Chandler Smith yesterday was kind of like that. Like he doesn't look that good, but then he looked great. So I think that was just one that you want to kind of keep in mind. I would not full fade that in a 150 lineup run, but definitely in your 20 max, and that's not where you want to be going. All right, Almirola, it didn't look good to me, lads. Is he good? He looked good last week.
He looked very fast in practice. It's kind of what puts this play on the map for me. They had 6,400 starting in the bottom 20, just barely. I mean, there's definitely room for him to move into like the top like 12-ish or so and do really well.
Nondescript play, super low, kind of low owned, could be interesting. There is some standout. There is one standout coming up, or two. So I think there's one really interesting standout coming up here. But we're getting into the shitter zone, Taco. Noah Gragson, how's he looking in that legacy vehicle?
Not as good as I was hoping he would look. And then in practice, he looked awful.
I can't mess with that.
Allmendinger. Remember, he came 11th here last year, but that was in Bowman's car. Like, I wouldn't think too much about that.
You can't compare legacy to Bowman. Which team is actually creating the legacy vehicle? Who are they connected?
That's just Petty from last year. So like Eric Jones and Ty Dillon's team from last season.
Yeah, it's not horrible. Not horrible.
It's mid.
From 25th, if it was Eric Jones driving last year, we'd be pretty excited about it.
Yeah, but it's not. He's in this field.
Yeah,
he's not quite there. And Greg's will get there eventually, I think.
Did we talk about Eric Jones? Did I just blow right past him?
You just don't remember. We did.
Yeah. Allmendinger.
I kind of like the Allmendinger play here. He's for GPP. He's like very aggressive, and actually, like the last few 1.5 mile tracks we've been to, he's finished top 10 because they kind of put him. You know, he wasn't gonna run the 1.5 mile tracks last year, but once Colleague realized, okay, we're gonna put him in Cup full time next year, they had him run every race, and yeah, he was top 10, and I think he maybe wrecked out of one. But I mean, that's kind of what you got to expect with Allmendinger here. He's going to probably overperform unless he wrecks, but he's going to wreck a lot because he's just so aggressive. And yeah, just the ultimate sort of GPP play here is where his foil, his teammate Haley, would just be like the ultimate cash game play in this spot, if you know what I mean.
And Haley, you called him a solid cash safe play.
Yeah. And they're pretty decent in practice too. Like Allmendinger looks solid.
Okay. Interesting. They're starting. I mean, the starting positions are okay. Are these guys risk of getting lapped guys, or do we got to go a couple spots down for that?
Yeah, like Haley and Dinger are right on the line of that potentially. Yeah, I can see that. And then Dinger, of course, the more of the risk is just like him getting caught up in an accident because he doesn't really regard his own safety all that much. Where Haley's risk is just being complacent and getting lapped.
Yeah, give me the aggressive driver over the complacent one every time.
Like that.
I'll go with the dinger. Fucking ding up his vehicle.
That's why I have Haley. It's just like the cash game FanDuel staple play.
Your
pretty typical.
Your Allmendinger play is where he gets you in first place. Like at some point you get to screenshot it. You know, you're like,
Haley will get you the min cash. Dinger will either like cost you everything or win a GPP for you.
We play to win here. Fuck the min cash.
Yeah.
Michael McDowell, no go, no bueno, starting 17th. Although
we said this exact same shit last week, ended up optimal, just out of pure survival, like not any of his own skill. Just like he did not wreck, and that's all it took. So I don't know. Did I say it 2 weeks in a row? I mean, this is another track he's not good at. Front row is not good at, but I mean,
the last viable driver, Harry Burton, starting 35th.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Listen, why is he 5,600? I thought Harrison Burton.
He's always 5,600.
Is he? He's that a turd?
Yeah, the wood car is always down here. Yeah, ever since like Blaney's driven it, like. Burton's been, just not the greatest with it.
Is this fool's gold, this chalk right here? Is this the scary chalk that we should not be fucking with?
I mean, a backup car on a West Coast swing is always going to be scary, but like starting 35th, he's going to pass like Cody Ware and JJ Elley. That's two guys at least.
That doesn't win me.
But if there are like 7 cautions and somehow he's not in them, he could, he could be mandatory.
Is he the ultimate carnage play?
Kinda, yeah. Even if there's 0 carnage and it goes green the whole way and nobody wrecks like we've had here a few times, he would still be in play, I would imagine.
Do you think he can stay on the lead lap in this vehicle? Because Harrison Burton, say I remember the name from Xfinity being a decent driver. What's that?
Probably not, but we also had like optimal guys in Xfinity. They're 2 laps down. Like
that involved some weirdness though. Xfinity's a little weirder. There's
but even sometimes here there's like 12 dudes on the lead lap.
Yeah, I know. There's just so many more competitive cars in Cup Series right now. Like this isn't 3 years ago, Taco. I think welcome to 2023 where there's like 20 viable cars.
Yeah, but I don't think Burton really meets those qualifications.
No, he's not in that group. Yeah, he's not in the gonna finish top 10.
Same with Ty Dillon. Like Ty Dillon starting 33rd. We just got to get used to that not being good because he is definitely going laps down. That equipment is pretty shitty.
A good team should have grabbed Ty Dillon.
Shitty, but like, man, D- tier, not F tier, but like D.
I feel like one of the better teams should have grabbed Ty Dillon. He deserves a shot in a nice car.
Yeah,
he's earned it. No,
he is who we thought he is. He's back basically in the I don't know. He's back to doing what Ty Dillon does. He's gonna overperform at some tracks where like just his conservativeness will pay off, but for the most part, he's just gonna get ran around.
I'm not going to talk about any of these other fucking turds on the slate because don't play them.
Yeah.
There's no need.
Gilliland maybe.
No.
Yeah, Gilliland, look, he's all right.
No.
All right, ignore this man.
Play Colo. You know I love Colo. Like, I tweet with Colo. You know, we DM before the race. I'm like, yo, how you looking? I would never diss Colo, but
he did say to fade him.
Start 19th. Like, even he was like, dude, not this week, bro. I was like, but I can't quit you. He's like, quit me this one time. We'll be good. No Colo.
What if I told you he was 15th in this race last year and 14th last week?
I don't care. He's driving a Spire. No.
I'm not playing. I'm just saying that'd be. It's not like he has everything going against him.
Even if he finishes 15th, actually, I think he probably, if he does finish,
he's nuts if he finishes 15th.
He'll get you there. Yeah, he'll get you there. So you're saying I shouldn't quit Cole starting 19th?
I don't know. Doesn't that remind you of a Jake Garcia kind of play?
Nah, I saw it, but that was Xfinity. I told you I couldn't win Xfinity because I don't play.
But again, LaJoie got a 15th place finish here last year, not because he was fast. It's because he survived and everyone else wrecked. Like
extreme carnage. But I just feel like if there's extreme carnage, somebody else who's starting further back is going to be that guy.
Probably.
Anyway, all right. That's going to wrap. Listen, if you like what we're doing here, you're watching this thing live, just smash the like button. Do me a favor. If you want us to keep doing NASCAR breakdowns on the public channel, smash that like, share with your friends, tell your friends, DFS Army. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Guys, we got the Domination Station Optimizer, and we have promised that we're going to show you how to set up the optimizer for this race. So, since I have Taco here, and since I got to make 170 lineups, might as well. So, get a little 2 Dom action going. At least 2, Taco.
I like it.
At least 2 dominators. What does that mean? That means that I will force, and I could adjust who the dominators are here real quick. So, but that essentially is going to force 2 drivers with a Y or yes, this is a potential dominator tag on them into every single lineup. I feel like one could add Truex into the mix.
Yeah, feel free to.
I will do that
and make it a little less strict.
Get a little less restrictive, allow a little Truex, because you'll get 0 Truex. I'm just going to tell you right now, Taco, you get 0 Truex if you use this without allowing him as a Dom. You're not going to get any.
They're just trying to save you.
Yeah, which might be good or might be bad, but you were just going to get none of him. So I'm adding Truex in, but in effect, that's the only rule that I think we need to make here. I like to run 2 uniques for NASCAR. Taco, you're a 1 uniques guy.
Yeah,
that's got.
I like to let it. I like to let my nuts hang a little bit when it comes to the.
Yeah, you got balls.
The combinations. I just like to give it room to breathe.
Yeah. Well, you're saying you're commando with your lineups in a sense.
Not commando, just very loose fitting.
Philip Berkowitz just wants to know Keselowski or Buescher and Hamlin or Logano. So Hamlin or Logano, I think I know your answer.
I mean, Buescher or Logano, easy. Come on.
Buescher and Logano over Hamlin and Keselowski. Philip, you got this, my man. Take it down. All right. So when you just run the optimizer raw,
of course you're going to get all the Reddick.
You're getting all kinds of Reddick. D-Swizz is already sort of projected in such a way that you didn't need to tell me he was now, but there are some issues I see here. Right off the bat, I'm seeing a lot of Justin Cashley, a little too much, little
not
too much.
Dinger.
Harry Burton.
Yeah, this is where I like to just manually work down more of the cash game plays and pump up some of the GPP plays.
Yeah, this is not going to work at all. So first thing we got to figure out is, listen, do I want to load up on Justin Haley in tournament? Probably not. So I'm going to set a max of 10% there. Harry Burton. I don't mind having some of this guy.
That guy's at a global max of like 50 to start off with.
I don't like to do it that way. Just my thing, because I like to see what the
So
Taco
you like
Funny.
getting 99% Reddick in every run because that's what you're
No,
gonna get.
I like to see what the Dom station is going to do
Yeah,
without that. So I like to do my first few runs, and this is just how I do the
yeah,
optimizer. I like to do my first few runs where I don't have that global cap, so I know what your project. If I said this all to 50%, I wouldn't even know who your projections were favoring, because what would
yeah. I
end
would
up
hit a
happening
few
is I'd get
guys.
too many 50s, right? So I like to see, oh, okay, the projections already love Tyler. They already love Suarez. They kind of like Truex. Marty,
Yep.
okay. Then he liked Truex a lot more than I do, right? And then, oh,
This
there's your boy
price.
Chastain. Okay. So I just start to set, and then what I want to do is kind of like start reducing these punt play guys to areas that I'm comfortable with, set it to tournament mode, right? And run number 2. And so now I'm going to get like sense number 2 of what happens when you don't just give it all the shitters to fuck with. And the other thing I want to do is unfriend some of the complete turds that I just am not going to use. So I'm just going to unfriend this group here. Colo I'll leave in there because if I unfriended him publicly, like he might actually not respond to my DMs. And so right there, we unfriend some of these turds because we were getting them. We're getting a little bit of exposure, so I don't want that. Right? Give it another run. And that's pretty much it. Like, so from here, what I'm going to do and the way I would approach the optimizer is just like what we talked about on the breakdown. So, looking at this top group, it was like, hey, if I want to be like Taco, which I do in a lot of ways, not just in this race, but just in general, you have a good life.
In the bedroom, yes.
I've heard. But a good life in general. Better League of Legends player than I am. Trying to catch up.
Oh, you must be really awful.
I'm trying to catch up. So I might say, all right, looking at some of these guys, all right, so I'm going to have to control for Suarez, but I want to make sure we're over a little bit on the Chastain. Here's a little too much Allmendinger, a little too much Almirola, so a little too much Berry. Like, all right, Taco told me very dangerous.
I say let the dinger fly.
You let the dinger.
I love rooting for dinger.
Letting the dinger.
Sometimes I actually would prefer to just have easier to root for lineups and like optimal money making lineups. Sometimes some people it's just fun to watch in this field.
I only care about.
That's just me though.
I literally only care about my money. I don't care about the driver. I don't root for anyone.
So I really enjoy the process of rooting throughout a race.
If Pol Pot was driving one of these cars, I'd be like, and I had him in my lineup, I'd be rooting for him. If I don't care. I don't even know who Pol Pot is. I just thought of random dictator name.
Oh, I thought. How about like the pace car? Every time there's a caution, he gets lead laps. That's the only way he can score.
Like if Kim Jong Un was
like
driving
3K.
one of these, if Kim Jong Un was driving one of these vehicles and he was in my lineup, I'd be fucking cheering Kim Jong Un like he was, like he was the hero.
Yeah.
Oh, Kim Jong, let's do this.
Yeah, I've had to root against Elliott a lot more times in my life than I would want to. But
I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
So how much chalk do we eat with Tyler Reddick? And it's like, I don't care who the driver is. I love me some D-Swizz, but like here you're going to decide. What am I doing with Suarez? I like Suarez, right? He's the man. Okay, projected ownership, 29%. I want to go over that. Okay, how about 42%? Just random number. Above or below the market. And then you let it all sort itself out. Killer Priest. I like Killer Priest, but, again, I'm not trying to have too much of these turdly drivers. Control for that. And then I just run it again. So I don't want to like have a whole million bunch of people doing exactly what I'm doing here, which is why I don't want to take this too far. But that's the essence of how I set up the Dom for these. I've won a bunch of these races. It seems to work out.
I would say show the shitter rule, but this isn't really a week for a shitter rule. Like we're just unfriending the shitters.
Yeah, we don't need the shitter rule. You're just not going to play too many of these shitters. The research station showed pretty clearly that outside of a crazy carnage race, which could happen, and we talked about that scenario.
Has happened the last few times. Yeah,
it could totally happen. And then those guys will come into play. But I think that's where your Harry Burtons come into play. Like those guys, unless like
the only thing I disagree with is like unfriending Ty Dillon, just because eventually you hit a point where you're like, okay, I've got 30% Harrison Burton and 0% Ty Dillon. Is he really that much more likely to be optimal than Ty.
Yeah,
I do agree with like fading Cody Ware or fading like
McLeod.
Those guys actually really have no chance. Maybe
Give Ty
McLeod
Dillon.
actually finished 24th last
But
week.
I do expect, based on what I've seen all weekend, I actually do expect that Ty Dillon will be laps behind.
Oh, he'll be laps behind. Yeah, literally just in case there's like 10 wrecks.
Yeah, but that's again a 2 or 3%er. Let's not go nuts with those. We talk about scenarios. Let's not go.
Don't go loading up.
Let's not go crazy on those. Even if you're allowing it. Again, so your favorites and for DFS Army VIPs, and if you're not a DFS Army VIP subscriber, you want to sign up right now. Go get signed up. We have a NASCAR only package if you want that. Get the full VIP. Get all that stuff. You can use promo code TACO and it gets you 10% off everything. 10% off NASCAR only if you want that. The NASCAR is $29.99 a month. And you'll get the optimizer. You'll get Brady's notes and bets. So Brady's coming in. He comes in late. He like comes in like a hero. Why is it like on a white horse? He's like, yeah. Like yesterday, he just rides in. He's like, no. This is your core play. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then you play that guy and you win the tournament. That's how Brady rolls. Like he rolls up late, pulls up. Like you ever see that video of the pimp that gets out of like a Cadillac and he does this whole like this walk thing and he just walks in and he
put the new forwards on
3 steps forward, 3 steps back. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, I got to get that video.
I want to say no.
Oh man, I got to find that. It's so good. I've tried to do it. I look like the biggest goofball in the world. I've tried to pull it off. I look like such a dick. I can't.
Usually ask me, but I want to ask you, who is your pick to win? Who do you think is winning?
Oh man.
Who's your spirit animal of this race?
You know, I is this cheeseball to say Logano?
No.
All right, I'm going with.
He's
Logano.
definitely not one of the favorites, just because, like, you know, in dirty air, I'm not sure how he'll do, but yeah,
I like.
He'll
Logano
be there all race. He'll be in position
to hang around. This is like the kind of race where he just hangs around, and then like at the end, you're like, it's Logano. He got it. Fuck.
See, I'm big on Chastain as my favorite dominator, but I don't think he wins the race. I think it's kind of similar to last weekish, where he's like kind of always there, maybe even wrecks himself out. But I think by the end of this, it's gonna be some crap. I think like someone like a Kyle Busch or a Hamlin is gonna have like a bad race until like the very end and just kind of like get there because there are 3 straight overtime.
So the risk you're taking is with the odds-on favorite Kyle Busch as your win call. Is that what I'm hearing?
I know, right? To win, but not he ain't gonna do anything in the race. Would be my guess. I don't know. Should actually just say Larson.
Larson's probably.
But I don't know.
Larson's your guy.
It's gonna be one of these guys that I'm not really on in DFS. He comes in and wins, but it doesn't hurt me. It just feels like it's gonna be one of those kinds of weeks, you know.
He's gonna hurt you if you're not on him in DFS.
Yeah, but if there's like 2 or 3 guys that have like 50 lead laps, I think it'll be all right.
I hear it. All right, listen, good luck, everybody. Let's crush this race. Remember, if you're not mass multi-entering and you're just doing one lineup in a giant tournament, that's where you fade the chalk, right? Don't play Reddick in that one. But if you're playing just one lineup, but it's like against in a small tournament, what we call like single entry. What do you mean? If it's 100 people, 50 people, then you can embrace some of that chalk. If you're going up against 30,000 lineups and you're putting in just one, fade the chalk.
In 30K lineups, you got to be cute and play some wild people. You don't have to do that in the hundreds, 550 peoples. You
know my philosophy with March Madness brackets. Never pick the favorite. Never pick the favorite to win. Why? Yeah, that team is favorite to win, but the fucking chance that I'm going to put in a lineup against 20,000 other people, a bracket with Duke, who's 40% owned as the winner, and like I'm going to be better than all those other people. Like it's ridiculous, right? You're not going to do that. You're not that good. So at least fade that chalk, play a version that's lower owned, and if you happen to be right, you can actually win a tournament. Do that every day for a year, maybe you'll win one.
You don't have to get too crazy. Remember, some of the rake settles itself out. Like, for example, Cody Ware started 11th last week and was over 2% owned.
That's free 2% money.
Yeah.
Actually, Cody Ware was in the nuts, so that's
not even close.
All right, good luck, everybody. We will see you in the DFS Army Discord talking about the race and all that good stuff. Like I said, if you're not subscribed to DFS Army, promo code TACO gets you 10% off. VIP covers everything. We got so much going on. but I'm really loving the prize picks and the underdog and sort of those prop game plays that we have going right now. For my brothers and sisters out there who play on prize picks, my favorite spot on prize picks for NASCAR is the Tyler Reddick over 48.5 fantasy points. I think as long as he doesn't crash, he gets there. And, we're looking for about a 55 to 60% margin on prize picks for good plays. I'd give it about a 70% margin that Tyler Reddick doesn't crash and gets you the 48. So that's about as good as you're ever going to see in terms of an odds situation on prize picks. Did you see I hit 4 out of 5 on my UFC plays yesterday?
Very nice.
Not too bad.
I was looking at that. I can't play it, but Austin Dillon, I think he only needed like a top 15 to hit his over, which is probably fine.
Let me see here.
Maybe cars past net would be better. 11.5. There he'd need a 14th. But just going off of the numbers there, he does that pretty much every single time here.
Wait, which one did you look at?
But the practice times actually kind of like scared me off of that a little bit.
Cars pass for Austin Dillon, 11.5. He's
starting
26.
Where? Starting 26. It would just mean he'd have to finish 14th.
I don't mind it.
Which is like he's perpetually a 13th place driver. So I
like it. I'm putting that in there in my group. I'll put that in there with with my Reddick fantasy score. And that's a nice little 2-play.
Mm-hmm. I really thought about a lot of these guys. Maybe like, they have Logano for 49 lead laps.
Oh man, I don't. It's asking a lot, dude. That's asking a lot.
It's too close to bet, but it's just interesting to look at some of these. I kind of wish they had them for more than just like 2 or 3 drivers in the field.
Well, they do it on purpose because even they can't figure this shit out. Like, I'd like to do unders for most of them for laps led. You know what I mean? I don't give you all the drivers. I don't mind this D-Swizz 40.5 either.
Yeah.
Can't
he only needs like a top 11-ish.
I think these are my 3 that I like so far. It's unfortunate that I feel like I'm more interested in the overs than the unders. But the unders are probably the better plays. So I need to think a lot more about NASCAR and prize picks. Anyway, all right, that'll do it for this one, guys. Good luck. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Taco, thanks for breaking it down for us.
Oh, yeah, helmets up.
Yep, helmets up. Let's do this.